the time to do the things you gotta do. Always moving forward, always on the go. I hope you take a moment to take it slow. Let me be the one to ease your pain.
Hello and welcome back to Bookmark Chronicles. Today I'm bringing you my August wrap-up. If you saw my mid-year wrap-up, this is something that I said that I didn't think that I was going to do, but I changed my mind because I really enjoy wrap-ups and TBRs, so I'm going to start doing them on a regular basis. The first book that I read this month was Vicious by V.E. Schwab. This was a 5-star read for me, and I do have a full review on my channel, so I will make sure to link that down below. In this, we follow college roommates Eli and Victor. They start performing experiments to see if near-death experiences can give them supernatural powers. During these experiments, things start to go wrong, and 10 years later, Victor has just broken out of jail and is on his way to find and kill Eli. I really enjoyed reading this. The chapters are super short, the writing is amazing, the characters are really well written, and if you like revenge plots, supernatural powers, villains, morally great characters, or found families, then I recommend it. The next book that I read was Truly Devious by Maureen Johnson. This one, unfortunately, was not so great for me. I only gave it 1.5 stars, but I do also have a full review of this, so I will also link that down in the description. In this, we follow Stevie Bell at her first year at Ellingham Academy, which is known for the Ellingham kidnappings that happened in 1936 when the founder's wife and daughter were both kidnapped from the campus. Those kidnappings are the reason that Stevie attended Ellingham in the first place, and she hopes that while she's there, she can crack the case and find out who Truly Devious really is. While I was incredibly intrigued by the plot, this is basically as boring as a murder mystery could possibly get. So I decided to DNF this series. The next book is The Dressmaker's Gift by Fiona Valpy. This book follows Harriet, who finds an old photograph of her grandmother Claire, who was a seamstress in Paris during World War II. Harriet then decides to move to Paris so that she can break into the fashion industry as well as learn more about her family history. I don't typically read a lot of historical fiction, at least not anymore. The last thing that I can remember reading was the Dear America series when I was really young, but this book was recommended by a coworker of mine, and it happened to be available on Kindle Unlimited, so I got both the ebook and the audiobook together. I actually really enjoyed reading it, and I learned a lot about what it was like in Paris during that time, as well as what it was like in some of the concentration camps. I gave this one a 4 out of 5. The next book that I read was Get a Life, Chloe Brown by Talia Hibbert. Our main character, Chloe, is on a walk through her neighborhood when she's almost struck by a drunk driver. Because of this, she creates a bucket list of sorts and enlists the help of her neighbor, Redford Morgan, and a very unlikely romance ensues from there. Most of you probably know that I am not a huge romance person, but I really enjoyed reading this book. It was funny, I was invested in the characters, and a lot of important topics are discussed in a very meaningful way. I ended up giving this 5 stars, and I will link my full review down in the bottom. The next book that I read was The 7.5 Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle. I also got this one on Kindle Unlimited. I got the ebook from there, and then I ended up downloading the audiobook from Audible as well because there's a lot happening in this one. Our main character, Aiden Bishop, wakes up in the body of a different person every single morning, and he has 8 days to figure out who the murderer of Evelyn Hardcastle is and to report it back to this mysterious being known as the Plague Doctor. This book was not at all what I expected. I didn't really read the synopsis beforehand, and after the first couple of chapters, I went back to read it and I was like, oh, this sounds really interesting, I'll keep going. There's so many different things happening. There's so many different characters being moved around, and once you think you figured it out, you haven't, and then you think you figured it out again, and again, you haven't. I think what I really enjoyed about this is that it gave me what a murder mystery should be, and after my disappointment from Truly Devious, I felt like this was kind of the rebound and it got me back on track. If you like super complex murder mysteries or are a sucker for a good plot twist like I am, then I highly recommend it. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. The last book that I read in August is The Giveaway by Greer Hendricks and Sarah Pekkanen. I mentioned before that I've read one of their books, The Wife Between Us, and I'm interested in reading The Anonymous Girl, and I think the other one is called Only One or something like that. This one was an Audible original, and essentially it's a Lifetime movie. It's a 2-hour listen, and it's about a man who doesn't know how to handle rejection. In this, we follow Chloe Powell as she sets off for what she thinks is a yoga retreat. She gets there, things are already a little weird, but she's going with the flow. She sees some weird things happen in the night, and then in the morning, a new guest arrives on the retreat, and she realizes that the director of this program has been lying to her, and shit goes downhill pretty fast. This one isn't necessarily a mystery, but more like a thriller, and if you like Lifetime movies like I do, then I highly recommend it. I gave it 4 stars because I grew up on Lifetime and I live for that shit. So those are all of the books that I read in the month of August. Only 5, which is actually more than I was expecting to get to. Apparently I can't count, it's 6. If you don't already know, I work at a university, and we just last week announced that we are going fully remote for the fall. So we'll see how this impacts my reading. Otherwise, that's all I have for you today, and I'll see you in the next video.